Welcome to the Motown India show, Mr. Sanghi. We are going to ask some questions relating to the electric vehicle industry and the
Yeah.
kind of skill required to address this industry in the years to come.
So I think it's the right time that you have taken this up, Roy, because I think EVs are the future of this industry. And while we might be going slow, but we are absolutely sure that EVs is what is going to drive the market going ahead.
Technically speaking, in an IC engine vehicle, once that goes out and electric vehicles come in, what percentage of components in an IC engine disappear forever?
So I think what you will need to understand is that the driveline totally disappears. So when I talk of the driveline, which means the engine, the transmission, the differential, the propeller shaft, the entire driveline disappears. And the driveline has nearly 90% of the moving parts of a vehicle are in the driveline. So 90% of the moving parts disappear as soon as an EV comes in.
So also remember, when these parts disappear, the skill behind this part, the engineering behind this part, the knowledge behind these parts, they become completely redundant?
So there is no way they'll become redundant. One, so let me make myself clear that coming on of EVs, and when I say that EVs are the future, it doesn't mean that IC engine has died.
Okay.
One, IC engine has an existing population which is huge. And that population will remain good even if you are going by today current Indian laws. Then petrol vehicles will remain for a minimum of 15 years. Diesel vehicles will remain for a minimum of 10 years. That's the minimum. But the government, if you look at the new scrappage policy, also talks about recertification of these vehicles even after 20 years. If they go through the test centers and if they are found okay, they will be recertified as roadworthy. So the existing vehicle population, which is huge, is not going anywhere. Therefore, we will require skills which are handling these vehicles now.
And the people who have the skill, can they also enhance their skill by learning a little more pertaining to the electric vehicle?
Definitely. So I think upskilling is possible and it will be done because none of the people who are already in the workforce will become redundant. Let me talk about my own workshop. My own workshop had people who have not even passed their 7th or 8th standard. There we had mechanics who were not even ITI.
Okay.
So when we transited from BS4 to BS6, we realized that a lot of the issues which come in a BS6 engine can only be resolved through use of a laptop because there are too many ECUs in a BS6 vehicle. So even to diagnose a fault, unless you are using a laptop, unless you plug in a laptop to the vehicle, you don't know what has gone wrong. And a lot of things get sorted out through a laptop, which means there is a software which will sort them out. 100% of my technicians are now comfortable using a laptop in both diagnosis and rectification, even people who were not qualified to do it. So I don't think any of the workforce will become redundant unless, yes, there will be people who are not willing to learn. There is a section of the skilled workforce which is not willing to upskill. I think those people will definitely have a tough time, but otherwise, majority of the workforce can be upskilled and reskilled to handle EVs.
Are there enough courses or have courses started? And what about the ITIs? What about other places where, people can be trained? What is the scenario now overall within the country?
So I think we started at the right time, Roy. So presently, if you look at the penetration of EV vehicles currently in the market, one, it is primarily limited to three-wheelers and which are more like motorized rickshaws, motorized manual rickshaws, which you would have seen all over Delhi, Bangalore, and mostly assembled by unorganized sector, not in the organized sector. Then there are two-wheelers which have come in. But even if you look at the two-wheeler sales, I think the total two-wheeler two-wheelers sold in India is some 1.5 lakhs. But generally, there are almost 2 million two-wheelers in every month are sold in the Indian market. So even two-wheelers, it's a very minuscule population which is there for EVs. So you don't need a very large workforce for two-wheelers as of now. But yes, three-wheelers and two-wheelers are low-hanging fruits. They are the ones which are going to be electrified the earliest. And by earliest, I mean, I'm talking of a time frame around 2030. We will definitely have some 30% penetration of EVs as an estimate, which will be the new vehicles. So, but simultaneously, IC engine vehicles will also continue to be sold. So the population of the IC engine vehicles will also go up. Okay. So I think there are courses, and what ASDC has done is that ASDC is partnered with a number of people who are into both content development, train the trainer development. In fact, we have collaborated with DFID, which is a UK-based initiative of the British government, in developing content for EV courses. And we have done reasonable progress around that. We have also tied up with MG Motors. They have a CSR program called Daksh, where we are training people for EVs both at the manufacturing end and at the after sales end. Okay. And these people are actually getting both theoretical and physical training, and they'll be good enough to be absorbed not just by MG Motors but any brand which is looking at EVs in the future. So I think a lot of work is happening. Lot of work is happening not just at the end of ASDC but some other sector skill councils which are into capital goods. So when it comes to manufacturing of ECUs and a lot of other components, motors, starters, which are typical to ECUs. So I think even ACMA, the Component Manufacturers Association, has taken initiatives to start skilling and reskilling and upskilling people who are involved in this industry. So I think it's the right time to be looking at this domain, and it's the right time to first see that there are enough trainers to train people who want to get into the EV space. But at the same time, we would not want that people who have been trained for EVs suddenly find that they are not getting jobs because there is not sufficient requirement for those kind of technicians. So we'd like to go slow, and we'd like to address demand instead of building up supply and people getting people waiting for jobs to come in. So I think, but ASDC is fully equipped to bring up trained manpower for the EV industry, and we are absolutely confident that for want of trained manpower, the EV's domain will not suffer.
What are the basic level of qualifications required?
So depends, Roy, what kind of which slot you are looking at. So there will be people who are just ITIs who can be trained, like specifically when it comes to after sales service. But there will be engineering graduates, there will be engineering diploma holders who would be required to, because there's a lot of R&D work also going on in the EV space. So if you're wanting to get into R&D, then obviously a basic education will not help. You definitely need to have an engineering background to get into R&D, to get into designing of EVs. So that's the higher end of the EV bracket that I'm talking about.
Today, the EV industry or EV vehicles have not really taken off the way it should have taken off, like in some of the other parts of the world. What stops them from growing in India?
So a number of things, Roy. So I think the first and the foremost is government policy. For any such thing to really take off, the triggers, if you look at the global market, whether you look at Europe, you look at the US, you look at the China, which is the fastest growing EV market, most of the triggers have been provided by the government. And these triggers could be, one, fiscal incentives, which means subsidies available to customers who are buying in EVs. Two, there are non-fiscal incentives, like if you look at China today, so there are a number of cities where you cannot get an IC vehicle registered. So if you want to buy a vehicle in those cities, it's Shanghai, it's Beijing, you will need to have an EV if you need to buy a vehicle. So automatically the EV population is growing. There are parking lots. There are parking lots which are dedicated only to EVs, specifically inside the city. So if you are driving an IC engine, you will not find parking lots inside the city in commercial areas. So you will need to buy an EV. So I think these are triggers which the government policy can mandate, and these are the triggers which will finally end up into people adopting EVs. The second problem is the cost of acquisition of an EV vehicle. An EV is still expensive. If you look at a two-wheeler, a normal two-wheeler today, even a BS6 two-wheeler at the entry level, is around on-road prices anywhere from 75 to 85,000. But a similar EV is almost about 1.5 lakhs. So cost of acquisition is another hindrance, and therefore that's where the government subsidies come in. At the same time, the rising fuel prices. The rising fuel prices are probably a trigger that suddenly everybody is talking about the EVs. So I think these are issues which will evolve as the market matures. But like I said, that it might take time, but the future is EVs for the automobile industry.
When it comes to the EV industry as a whole, what is your opinion? Which sector will be growing the fastest initially? Will it be the commercial vehicles? Will it be two-wheelers, or will it be passenger vehicles? And also, add to that, do you also see that the technology within the EV industry now rapidly changing for the better, getting more efficient?
So I'll answer your first question. First, fruit is two-wheelers and three-wheelers. These are the ones which will take off the fastest. The next will be commercial passenger vehicles, and that's purely because that's what the government wants, and it's very logical why the government wants this. If you and me are driving a car, we'll probably do 50 or 100 kilometers per day, but a commercial vehicle will probably do 300 kilometers per day. So the same car is contributing almost 3 times to carbon emissions as compared to a personal vehicle. So therefore, you will always obviously need to target commercial vehicles which are on road for longer periods, for longer durations, and for longer time and space. So those are the ones which need to be targeted. Second is larger buses. So if there are 50 two-wheelers on road, and if the bus is accommodating those 50 people on the bus, then obviously you are reducing so much more carbon emission. So I think this passenger cars will probably be the slowest and the last to take off for reasons like government intervention and to very high cost of acquisition.
What about the technology here? You see that evolving real fast?
So I guess, yes, you are absolutely right. So once EVs come in, then only the EV manufacturers are not important. I think it's the entire ecosystem which is important. You see what has happened to mobile phones. I think mobile phones have revolutionized the way we live. So a mobile phone is now no longer used only as a phone. Mobile phone does a lot of other things, and those lot of other things are possible because there are independent developers of software, which we call apps, which are helping mobile phones doing everything, probably everything that we used to do in our lives. So now we don't need computers, we don't need laptops. A phone is all that. We don't need wallets, we don't need credit cards, we don't need our personal ID documents. Almost everything is there on a mobile phone. So I think that disruption has come in just the last 5 years. So I think that's the kind of disruption which will come in once EVs are adopted, and therefore EVs, the rate at which EVs will be adopted is much faster than what you and me will think, and the technology will evolve as the usage evolves. It's a chicken and egg story. So first the customer should come in, or first the technology has to come in? And I think it evolves itself, and I see that it is going to evolve much faster than we think there is. The other part of the technology, I think, where a lot needs to be done is the batteries, which become the most integral part of an EV. And today there is Chinese dominance in cell manufacturing. Even the ingredients which go into lithium-ion batteries, I think China has a predominant position in terms of supply of those ingredients. So there are various chemistries on which a lot of research work is being done besides lithium ion. And I think once all that happens, the cost of batteries will come down drastically. And since they contribute a major portion to the cost of an EV, I think the cost of acquisition will come down and they'll become more relevant than what they are today.
This lovely chapter of internal combustion engine, is it inevitable that someday it's going to fold up and collapse and that'll be the end to it?
Well, personally, and this is purely my personal opinion, I don't think IC engines will ever go forever. IC engines are there to stay. And as the emission norms are improving, as IC engines are also becoming far, far better than what they used to be, I think, so you'll not say that IC engines have become history. So I don't see them becoming history very soon. They will remain, and they'll remain for a longer time, and specifically in heavy commercial vehicles where the battery sizes required are extremely, extremely huge and extremely heavy. So I think IC engines are there to stay. But yes, they're, as a proportion of the total automobile population, I think IC engines will continue to go down. What we are seeing in diesel and gasoline today, the percentage of diesel vehicles is going down drastically, but diesel is still there, specifically in commercial vehicles. So I personally feel that IC engines are here to stay at least for a couple of more decades, if not more, and they'll continue to service the mankind much longer than what we think.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Mr. Sanghi, for joining in. Really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Roy.